I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is,
did you vote for Judge Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Judge Jorgensen. That was the perfect answer. Thank you.
And welcome everybody to the Libertarian Podcast Review. This is Tyler Yonke. I think we're on episode 21. I don't know. We're going to do a podcast of the week. Who are we featuring? Well, Dave Smith. He gets personal. Michael Malice is an angry woman. TopLobsta hangs out with the Lions of Liberty. Adam Curry joins Liberty Lock Pod. Ashton Birdie cracks on the Towergang Power Hour. Abbey Martin on with Reed Coverdale, the Naturalist Capitalist, Travis Tyree on the newly revamped Nick Ashley's show. We'll also do a little segment there with James Jenneman. Scott Horton debates Bill Kritsol at the Soho Forum, and we will discuss just a little bit about Joe Rogan, Sanjay Gupta, Dr. Gupta, and the little brawl they had. Welcome, everybody. Once again, my name is Tyler Yonke. What we do, we review podcasts. And today, look, the 80s, 90s shows, comedy shows, they've done those where what do? They do a little clip show. And they just it makes it easy. It's like phone it in, right? Well, I'm not phoning in because I gotta actually listen to all these things and do these clips. So it was phoning in for the actors, but not for the people behind the production crew. So what are we going to do? Well, like I said, we're going to go over these podcasts. I got some clips to play for you and little comments about each one of these. And then as I compiled all this, then Michael Malice comes out and the black flag is flying high and burning bright on the blaze. He went on Sarah Gonzalez, News of Why It Matters, Stu Bergier's Stu Does America, and the podcast, the big episode there with Glenn Beck. That'll be for everybody. I'm a Blaze subscriber, so I get that early. But for everyone else, you will be able to see that coming this weekend. And the podcast with Malice, primo. It was really good. I don't have any clips of it here, but I just want to kind of give a shout out because, for whatever you think about Glenn Beck, and he's kind of one that's really pushed me in this direction more than any other talk show host of the right wing that I was with. He definitely has sympathies on the libertarian side. He waffles back and forth, but I think you get an honest man out of him. And, he definitely, you listen to that interview. He's getting pulled down, and if he's listening to Malice and some of his reactions are better than some of my right wing family members. Well, there you go. Well, okay. So I did an interview last night. This is Friday afternoon. I did an interview last night with Patrick McFarlane of the weekly Liberty Weekly podcast. There's a few little issues we got to do on editing, so that's going to be kind of pushed back, but I think that's fine. It's a little more evergreen on the topic stuff that we went over. We did talk about Scott Horton, and I must say, it's Dave Smith comes out and tweets about Scott Horton, comparing it with the Joe Rogan podcast with Sanjay Gupta, Dr. Gupta. I had done that before. That's what I talked to him about last night. Some of it. So when you see that, you're going to think that I'm copying him, but he wasn't copying me. We just were thinking alike there. So, okay. So maybe we'll get right into it. Once again, Dave Smith, he had done this episode 783, which was the consequences of being dumb. He did one more episode, and then he took some time off. The consequences of being dumb was just a evisceration of, was it Hassan Piker? I think that's his name. I don't know, some YouTube lefty, just an idiot of all sorts. And Dave really worked out him over. I suggest you go watch that. It's one of Dave's best. When he takes these things, I've talked about this with the Towergang. I've talked about it with Patrick McFarlane, about someone like Dave who, and I'm an attorney and I think I have, good arguments and able to do stuff. He really comes at it, and his ability to think off his feet like that, very impressive. So give him all that. However, his daughter had a child. His daughter, no, he's a grandpa. His wife had a child and a son they had. Congratulations. And he talks about it. So I think we're going to go through with that. This was really an oppressive. Damn, I'm having some trouble. Impressive podcast, and him speaking about his son. And, Dave can talk like nobody's business. But then there's times when, it's a little more personal. He does a lot of ahs, because it's just tougher So let's get right into it. The son and his heart surgery and the tragedy that involved Dave Smith. Take it away.
He was born and he had open heart surgery, which is, goddamn terrifying to watch your newborn baby have open heart surgery. But the good news is that the surgery was successful. He's doing very well. We're still up in the NICU, which is an awfully depressing place to be, and it's really not a place you ever want to be. But he's doing really good, and I'm just incredibly grateful to all of the amazing doctors who have taken care of him and fixed him up, and it's really something. It's hard, you never there's no one you'll ever have as much gratitude toward. I mean, with the exception of my wife for giving me my 2 babies. It's there's the surgeon who performed the surgery. He'll pop in every now and then and just kind of check on him, and you just see this guy who saved your boy's life, and you just got this thing where you're like, hey, do you want all my money or my house or a foot or a hand? Can I mow your lawn every day for the rest of my life? What do you want? I mean, don't get me wrong, he's going to charge me a lot of money for it. It's not as if it's a free service, but goddamn, are they great? I really, everybody up there at the Columbia Presbyterian Children's Hospital is just incredible. I mean, from his cardiologist, his surgeon, the NICU doctors, a whole bunch of the nurses, just fucking incredible. Some of the most amazing human beings I've ever met, and they've just all done a great job, and he's doing really good. So.
And it's good to hear that he's actually doing well. Look, that's rough, man. Look, Dave Smith. This is. I posted out on Twitter. I was like, what a tool. Once again, he's helping Archie Flowers collate his case by platforming God. Another suspect person. God, his family, his wife. Platforming manliness. Right? That's what Dave's doing there. What a grifter. Solid work for Dave, and pretty proud of him. And he's a good guy. We don't know him, but it always feels like you do. And you look like me. I'm telling you who I am. I'm coming on these shows and being pretty raw and wide open. What do I got to hide? And it's the way that you try to communicate. And Dave does it in an exceptional fashion. Okay. Next one we had here, TopLobsta. I'm only going to do just clips here and there. The one that I'm going to do the most is the Scott Horton, because I just want to give a little bit more on that one. TopLobsta. I really like this guy. Goes on Lions of Liberty. I really enjoyed this whole show, and he's your number one steady hand artist. He's featured on Lions of Liberty before. This one was with Mark Claire. He's changed jobs recently. He's moved out of New York. He's in Florida. Search for more freedom, and here he discusses being a dad and current crazy environment. But this special clip I'm going to play here, which I thought was really interesting, because he talks about polarization and causing his intellectual curiosity, and some people, it drives him in a different way. But I thought it was so interesting what it did here for Top. I'll just call him Top. Again, he's got a real name. I don't know what the real name is though. TopLobsta on with Mark Claire, who's hanging out in Mexico now, about his intellectual curiosity and polarization.
Because people start to choose sides. In my job, I remember telling a guy, I said, "Hey, this guy Trump is polarizing," and he yelled at me, and he's like, "Polarizing? He's the devil." And I'm like, polarizing just means he's separating, black and white. Well,
his response actually proved that he was polarizing.
Exactly. So I'm like, I don't know how to respond to this guy. So I walk away, and I don't have the arguments set up to even discuss this with these people because I'm not paying attention. And but one of the defining moments I'll never forget in my life, I used to work on the tracks, building the subway system. We'll build new tracks and stuff like that. And it's the middle of the night on election day, 2016, probably 2 a.m. or something. And from down the track, you hear a guy just scream, a guttural scream. And I dropped the tool, and we're like, fuck, someone's injured. It's possible. It's very dangerous. So we all look down and we're like, yo, what's going on? And he's like, Trump won. And I'm like, oh my God, this is
made that sound.
Yeah, it was a gutter, right from his soul. And I'm like, okay, I need to drop everything, start reading whatever I can read and figure out what the fuck is going on. Can we curse? Yeah, we curse it.
Yeah, please do.
So at that moment,
first, I don't know, maybe 7 episodes way back in the day, I was like, I got to keep this show clean, blah, blah. And then at some point I was like, well, no, I want to be myself, and myself is going to curse when it's appropriate. I'm not like as foul mouthed as my partner Brian McWilliams, but sometimes you need to drop an F-bomb. So drop away.
Yeah, that was I think that was a good moment to drop F because man, I'm telling.
Anyway, once again, just dropping some quick clips here. TopLobsta, check out that episode with Mark Claire. Mark Claire just then was on with Pete Quinones talking about how he's down in Mexico. The hair still growing long and flowing there. So good job, Mark Claire. Okay, the next one we have up, Keith Knight. He hits another banger interview, this time with Walter Block, Dr. Block from Loyola University. He had just recently interviewed Tom Woods, and Tom repurposed that interview for his own show as well. Now I get him directly from Keith, but I also listen to it from Tom. And Tom on his own, when he put this interview out there, he's like, one of the best interviews of me ever, and that's high praise. And damn, Keith, yes, you did a great job. What Keith basically did was he ran Tom through about 12 different libertarian thought leaders and asked them, 2-3 minute answers of what you learned from each. And he had not given a list to Tom early. So these were all surprises. And then Tom's just brilliant being able to dissect those out. But this one's not about Tom. This one's about Walter Block, who also is much like Tom. He could just, come off the cuff and say what he needs to say about each one. This one, though, I'm going to take the clip about Ayn Rand because, look, Walter Block comes on. He tells funny stories. He tells some jokes, some of them good, some of them not so good. Right. And so, it's what he is. He's an octogenarian, 80-year-old man, but he does a great job. And I think there's a lot to learn here from Walter Block. Take it away.
The Atlas Shrugged was magnificent. It's my favorite book. I read it then, and I've read it every 10 years since, and except for the Gold speech, which I find boring. But I love that book. It's my favorite novel, and I use it in my classes. And so Brandon meant a lot to me. He converted me to limited government libertarianism.
And what was it about Economics in One Lesson, Atlas Shrugged, and your conversations with Rand and Brandon? What was the switching point for you to take you from socialism to libertarian minarchism?
I think it was, there were a lot of things. Atlas Shrugged was inspirational. The one thing that sticks out in my mind was in capitalism, if you do a good job, you make profits, you can expand your base of operation. And if you do a poor job, you lose money and you have to go do something else. Whereas in government, you don't have that automatic feedback mechanism which rewards doing good and penalizes doing bad. So the market was more efficient and also more moral, because in the market, it's voluntary trade. You bought that gray shirt for $10 and it was a voluntary interaction. Whereas your relationship to government is not a voluntary one. You pay taxes whether you like it or not. And if you don't, there'll be repercussions against you.
Another person you mentioned in your introduction was Ayn Rand. Is there anything else from Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead or Atlas Shrugged that really stuck out to you?
Well, Atlas Shrugged, I don't know. I get tongue-tied when I think about that book. It is my favorite novel, and a lot of people criticize it. They say it's too, I don't know what, unrealistic or something like that. But it really struck a chord in me. I found it very realistic. The bad guys, when they would have a meeting as to how to screw up the economy, it was just so true. And she comes from Russia. English is her second language, and yet the vernacular and the way of speaking. It was just dead on, and it was just inspirational. I've read all of her books, all of her novels. I've read a lot of her nonfiction as well, and I agree with virtually all of it. Not all of it, because she's a minarchist or limited government libertarian. She rejected the phrase libertarian, and she called herself an objectivist. She dismissed us libertarians as hippies of the right. But I still have a soft spot in my heart for Ayn Rand because she and Brandon converted me to it, and I consider her a libertarian, and by that I mean to compliment her.
All right, kind of the point there is that the John Galt speech, boring. It's the one part I've read that book multiple times, especially before I really became the anarchist that I am, and every time the John Galt speech is just kind of like. And what's interesting? Yaron Brook, he's talked about this. He was just recently on with Malice, and he loves to really take on the Christians and religious people and kind of mocks them and how this is what it was. He's like, how can they like Ayn Rand and still believe in God? And I'm like, you know what? I could like that book, and I could carve out some of the sections where she's just anti-God and be just fine with it. I don't know that there's two, because like Walter Block said there, what she talks about in the realism of her book, you can read it, back in the 60s, I think is when it was, and it still rings true today as far as like the double speak that they even have, which are similar to 1984. There's a lot of it that's you're just like, yes, I could see how this is. It doesn't mean that their philosophy of not being with God, whatever. My point is the John Galt speech. But I thought it was interesting. Walter Block, once again, great concept. One great interview there by Keith Knight. I would say check that one out. Keith always hitting home runs on his show. Okay, maybe you know who Adam Curry is. Well, he was recently. He's like kind of the godfather of podcasting. Former MTV DJ. We're going to talk a little bit about that. He's a conservative. I mean, conservative. He's a libertarian. He was on with Clint of Liberty Lockdown. Clint nailed a big fish with this interview, and it was really good. Once again, Clint, you impressed me. You're able to have, and I'm going to play part of this clip here where he has some great insight, and it's wonderful when you have a really intelligent guest that's a big time guest, and they go, that's a really good point. And once again, Keith pulls that off quite nicely. But this is one just starts, and I love this story about MTV.com, Adam Curry, and then going into Ulsterholm, the Fear King.
And we're going to get there eventually. I see it at least. I'm all for regulating Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Regulate the hell out of them as much as possible, please, please, please. Because I've seen the exodus. I've seen every single time people go somewhere else. AOL. Okay, this is. I've told the story, but I registered MTV.com when I was at MTV, 1993, 92. I don't remember. And I was using it, and I went to them and said, is it okay if I do this? It's MTV.com. I'm just running a little server myself, not charging any money, but I can get emails. I can put up a little web. They didn't know what a website was. And I said, whatever. Don't worry about you and your internet. We've got the AOL keyword. We have nothing to fear. So, and it was like, it was a done deal. Like, well, shut up, Curry, you're dumb. Later, of course, they sued me for it, which was a whole nother story.
Doesn't surprise me.
Well, the lawsuit between MTV Networks and Mr. Curry has been settled out of court, and neither party has any further comment.
That's fair.
We worked it out.
I wanted to ask you real quick. Did you ever get clarity from Joe Rogan on how Ulsterholm became the medical professional that was on his show so early on? Because that's stunning to me.
I forgot to ask. I will. Next time I see him. I did talk to him. I remember the last time I was there saying, man, that guy really kicked it off. And I remember Joe going, yeah, what the fuck? But I forgot to ask how he weaseled his way in. But I will. I'm afraid to ask because, that's a booking thing, and I don't want to fuck with the booking process. I got to keep getting booked.
Of course. No, I don't jeopardize anything for my own curiosity, but that is a really intriguing question because that guy was such an over the top fearmonger about all this stuff, and the fact that he was on such an enormous platform so early on, kind of out of nowhere, like no one really knew who he was, at least in my world.
No, I agree. I think that's a very good point. That's a very good point because he was there, and he was there the same day I was, which was even weirder. That was March 2020. He was, as I was leaving, he was about to do the show with Joe, and I met him. And I'm like, hey,
wow. I forgot about that.
And I'd know, and that, it wasn't, this was a few days before. It was, I remember people were wearing masks at the airport. And I remember specifically because I landed at LAX and people were wearing Gucci and, Louis Vuitton masks. I'm like, okay, I'm in LA.
Or Miami. I've learned that.
Right. Oh, that's true. Yeah. But those are knockoffs.
Yeah. Good point.
All right. Wonderful little, look, check that interview out. It's really good. Clint, I mean, you look at him there, he's on a high rise up in Miami. You can see the cars going down, like hundreds of stories below him. I'm very jealous right now because all those guys are out there in Tom Woods land, Orlando. They're out there for the Tom Woods 2000s episode. I'm in California. Although, my wife and I, we're taking a flight tomorrow. We're taking a trip up to see my son. So, as you got to do, I guess not so bad. Check out that episode though. You're going to learn a lot. Man, for me, it's great because you see Adam Curry and you remember Headbangers Ball and all this stuff on MTV, and he's there. He's a good guy. He's with the Liberty side, so it's cool to see. All right, Tower Power Hour this last week. Whew, what a mess that ended up being. Ashton Birdie, maybe you've seen her. She was on there. She was there. Then she disappeared. Then she reappeared. Then she was gone for good. But before all that, she gave us some good entertainment and some laughs. So it was really curious. And I'm not sure what set her off, but soon she just disappeared after there was a joke. And it was about her being an anti-Semite, about being alt-right pipeline. This also seemed a little bit extreme and an overreaction for someone who has worked and appears still to defend Alex Jones. And then she comes on and, she even defended him on the show. And then she didn't object to Toad. And all of a sudden, well, she did. And then, his Marathon 32 issue would take a look at that. And then all of a sudden she's up in arms. And so let's get to when I'm just going to play the moments here of her kind of cracking and disappearing. And it's odd to me, but it's what it is. Let's check it out and see if you can find out the true reason for her disappearance.
So much drama with Clint right now and me. Like I'm not gonna go into it on the stream. I'm not.
This is not true.
This drama that just started.
Yes, it is. Yes, Toad. You know it's not.
I love when girls do this. There's drama, but I can't talk about it right now. Just no.
There's no drama here. Please.
Toad, you darn well know that I'm not drunk anymore.
her Irish side came out. Now she can handle one drink. This is great. All right. We got any more super chats?
Yeah, we do. We actually have two more and one from your
$5.
So.
The eagle to anti-Semite pipeline is real. I was going to say, it sounded like she went down the libertarian anarchist to alt-right pipeline. So.
No. Okay, I'm leaving now. Bye, guys.
But she's back now. So she went.
she really did.
Holy shit.
She just pulled a Nick. It's going to be a Nick. Nick does this all the time.
Dude, you got to be kidding me. She better not have actually left.
I have no idea. I thought she was enjoying it. Read Coverdale.
All right. So do we need to go back there and just kind of see? Let's maybe we'll play this back again and see exactly the moment when she left. So this tweet comes up here, or this super chat. The e-girl to anti-Semite pipeline is real. She laughs. Ha ha. And then Toad cracks in with his little line, and she does.
Two more and one from your
$5.
So.
The eagle to anti-Semite pipeline is real. I was going to say, it sounded like she went down the libertarian anarchist to alt-right pipeline. So.
No. Okay, I'm leaving now. Bye, guys.
But she's back now. So she went.
Definitely had a problem with Toad there. So I think we blame Toad. And I don't know if you've ever seen The Simpsons. Lisa hangs out with Ralph Wiggum, and she goes out and then he sees his video and she's like capping on him, and he's like, what? And his heart literally breaks right there. Bart Simpson slows it down. I think we have a video similar to that. Let's add it here and watch it.
No. Okay, I'm leaving now. Bye, guys.
But she's back now.
And now.
Right pipeline. So.
No. Okay, I'm leaving now. Bye, guys.
But she's back now.
And now.
All right. Sorry. I said one more time. We had to see that one more time. That's pretty classic. You can see her meltdown, and I think she's okay because she's been out there in Orlando hanging out with Clint. She seems to be just fine. I don't know. I told Toad and Dave, I'm like, dude, you need to have me. I could vet these people maybe for you if you want. They need a vetting process because that was. And then I think the real answer is, she's a woman. So that's the vetting process right there. Jokes? Anybody? Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for the. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Okay. On to Abby Martin. She was on Reed Cup. Okay. Jesus. Keep laughing. She was on with Abby Martin, who came on with Reed Coverdale on Naturalist Capitalist. Look, Reed had been talking, I had interviewed him, a month or so ago. And he was talking about her coming on at the time. And he was, pretty excited about it. We talked about, what's the congressman that he had worked for? Jesus, it slipped my mind. I've had a few beverages. And that look, she's Abby Martin is the better person here, right? She opposes all the good things, and I'm like, you know what? Although I mean, look, check out I think episode 6. I reviewed Thaddeus Russell, his interview with her. I'd had a bunch of them different, but one I featured with her. She has some good points, but she's horrible on economics. Okay, but they don't, and so I'm sure Reed. Clint's love child, Reed got some shit here for kind of his comments or for having her on the show. But I think it was great. You side up with those things, those people with, the issues that you think are important for your side. And she definitely has some of those here. She talks about the military industrial complex and their high pollution. And I think it's great how she does this because so many times she's actually pointing out a lot of the hypocrisy of the left, and she's big into climate change, and I get that. But when you point out that the military is the biggest polluter, but yet a lot of the left are still voting for all the things that the military does, maybe you can, and I don't know if she does this on purpose, but inadvertently you show that climate really isn't the important factor, and she thinks it is, and so she's a wide swath of aiming and cutting these people down. Now, my problem with it is, as you see with Patriot Act, even the Civil Rights Act, which now oddly is, you think you can use the Civil Rights Act to help protect you for the vaccine mandates as an example. There are people actually trying to use that in court right now, saying that as an example, I'm going to school, you're sending your kids here, and since you're sending your kids here unvaccinated, it is a violation of my civil rights. So they are turning that on its head. You've got you always have to think of what these laws and these rules are going to do and these possible outcomes. And, Abby Martin, while she wants to help things here with the climate and against the big war machine, which I'm for, watch out when it gets turned on you. However, she does end up, I say be wary of that, but she does end up, taking on the biggest polluter, which is the one that you can't really go after, which is the government. And I actually applaud her for that, because for the most point, her side is not doing that. So let's check out what she has to say here, kind of about that, as maybe I just ruined her.
So you're working on this documentary, and it's about the pollution that the United States military puts out there. And I saw your trailer. It looks really interesting. And I'm glad you're talking about this, because I talk to a lot of environmentalists. I'm a big avid hiker, outdoorsman. So I talk with a lot of people who are active in trying to protect the environment. Almost none of them ever talk about the military. So I'm really glad you're going to be doing this. But you want to just talk about why you decided to make this documentary and what the details of it are going to be about?
Yeah, Reed, it's really cool to hear you say that, because I'm an avid environmentalist as well. Like, I love camping, I love hiking. I feel like our national park system here in the US is unmatched anywhere in the world. It's really just incredible to be a part of nature, to understand that we come from nature and how important it is to maintain nature. And so it's just shocking that, you can ask 100 people in the streets, and I probably maybe one would say that, a large contributor to the environmental catastrophe that we're facing is the US military, because it's kind of this tacitly endorsed notion to be an American citizen. You have to just kind of fundamentally accept the fact that we're a global empire and that it's all done for good reasons, right? We're a benevolent empire because we'd rather be the empire than, let's say, China or whatever. The reasons go on and on. They're just endless insanity to justify what we're doing around the world. But it's coupled with just this toxic legacy. Like, you could talk about the environment all day, because it really is endless in terms of the militarism that is destroying the planet. But let's say that you don't care about the environment. Like, you care about human life, right? Because the military has callous disregard for human life as well. And there's countless examples of just intentional dumping of forever chemicals that are called PFAS in hundreds of sites clandestinely across the US that are happening right now. This isn't just legacies and remnants of the Cold War and World War II of nuclear chemicals that have also been dumped in creek beds and saturated groundwater in hundreds of sites across the country. So basically the crux of the film is that it's an anti-imperialist intervention in the environmentalist movement, because I'm as confused as you are. I don't understand how it is possible that climate change and that environmentalism is on the forefront of a lot of people's minds. It is, it's in the consciousness of not only the American people, but of course the global community. And
all right, so she goes on there, and I do encourage you to check it out, because it is a big deal for Reed to have her on. And she goes on a little bit more there about cancel culture and free speech, and she says the right thing. She doesn't have the Trump derangement syndrome. And look, not not much to disagree with here on this episode. Also, take note, Fakertarians, maybe Jose Galison and any others who wear tank top. This look here, or her, this is how you pull off the tank top look. Okay, that's how you do it. All right, just throwing that out there. So look, some of the Tulsi Gabbard is who I was thinking about before. This is Dave Smith had even said this is the Tulsi Gabbard that we had expected and wanted, and well, you're sorry to bring it out here, Dave, but you're only making this comparison because Abby Martin is from the left and she's a good-looking woman. Okay, I mean, there's many other people. I'd say Jimmy Dore might be the better Tulsi Gabbard, right? But she doesn't look like this. And personally, I'd rather look at Abby Martin than Tulsi Gabbard and or Jimmy Dore. Just throwing that out there. Okay. Once again, I encourage you to do that. As always, and I said this with Reed when I had him on the show. I'm like, I remember Dennis Miller talking about PETA and some of these animal rights things and saying, hey, look, I have no doubt that if the roles were reversed, that minks would be wearing you for a jacket, right? In other words, be weary of these people, especially the left, where their inclination, well, the right does this too, but their inclination is really to subvert you and, when the tables are turned, use those same things against you. So, okay, we'll be with her on the military stuff. Okay, but, she wants to creeping the environmentalism, and that can cause some problems later on. Okay. Nick Ashley, and I talked to Patrick about this last night a little bit, 28-year-old, and he's kind of changed his show. I said revamped it. And so he goes on. So I started to listen to his first episode. I'd done a review, 25 podcast shows here, 25, 26. And then he pulled out Travis Tyree, and it's all about fitness. And it was really great. And I enjoyed it. I listened to it live at the time. But I caught some of it. I caught like the last third or so of it. And then I went back to listen to it. And he starts, opens his show with basically saying, well, the audio version, at least, of like, hey, I'm changing my show around a little bit. Maybe you want to see listen to my interview with James Jenneman on the Blackbird podcast. So I'm like, stopped it. Let's go listen to that. And I'll check that out. So here's my little bit of breakdown. Not mine, but him, Nick Ashley, on James Jenneman's Blackbird podcast, episode 63. And we'll get to right in kind of his leaving the Power Gang Tower Hour. And here we go.
Are you doing okay?
Oh yeah, I'm all right, man. There was a bit of a Twitter's bad for your mental health.
Yeah.
And there's a lot and Twitter drama, and when people who you think are your friends are really not cool, that do shit behind the scenes, talking private about you, it's just not good for your mental health. I'm no longer a part of the Towergang show. They're still my friends, and I love those guys. But I don't know if they've said anything about it on their show.
I mean, we've talked privately, but I don't think they've announced anything publicly.
Okay. Yeah, I decided this a little while ago, or maybe a couple of weeks ago. Because I'm just tired of all the fighting that ensues after we do an episode and somebody says N-word 14 times and people are going crazy about that. Like, I'm just not. And I found out that a lot of people had some really strange, like, conceptions of who I was as a person from all of it. And I'm like, yeah, it's really weird, man. Like,
talk about that, because I want you to set the record straight. Because
no, dude, I don't want to talk about that much. I'll tell some stuff, but like, I can't, obviously no names. I did speak to the people privately. And as far as I know, we're on, at worst, neutral terms. Like, at worst.
Cliffhanger. We're going to just leave it there. So go check that out. He says a lot of that. Look, if you watch my episode 20, where I have Fat Dave, Toad, and Jose on, by the way, if you really want to be entertained, start around 50 minutes in to the end. That's the supreme stuff. But there's a lot of good stuff in the beginning. I just listened to it again the other day because someone in one of the Discord servers was talking about it. So I just went and checked it out. But the point you watch it. I asked them about Nick. You watch each person's face. Maybe you could get an indication of who, what. I don't know. Okay. So then Nick brings on Travis Tyree. Travis talks about his fitness, how he had been big guy, then he, kind of fat, then lose weight. And he's now talking about, working out, lifting and such. And I thought this was great. But what does this really have to do with them talking about cheating? Is cheating okay? I don't know. I mean, these married men, what are they talking about cheating? Let's go here. Travis Tyree, Nick Ashley, Individualist Podcast.
Are you a fan of a cheat day during the week?
Not particularly. But if you are going to do it, especially if you're like, say, on a keto diet or a very low carb, a pretty cool trick you can do, like if you want to get a pretty sick pump at the gym, don't do your cheat day when you're not working out. Do your cheat day on a day you are working out, because one, you're going to have more energy because you're loading up on carbs usually on a cheat day, and two, you're going to have a pretty sick pump compared to when you don't do it. So I would say just of course, you're probably going to want to go out on a date or just kind of eat whatever, maybe on a weekend day where you're not obligated to go to work or you have more free time, and I get that. And if that's something you need to do to keep your routine, by all means do that. But give that a try every once in a while too. Just do it on a workout day. Put your cheat day on a workout day, and see what happens. You will probably be pleasantly surprised.
Got it.
All right, and I could actually agree. I look, this was good insight. I thought I don't do a lot of weightlifting stuff. I have a background in professional cycling, so I've done that for years. And so diet is a big deal because you need to look like an emaciated Holocaust victim, and or have the diet tricks of a teenage girl with an eating disorder. That's kind of how you get to the best fitness in cycling. So hearing Travis talk about this, I can affirm that definitely is a way, because you're on a strict diet. But if you want to have some logic to it and some consistency really of your gains, and you want to have a little bit of sanity with it, the best you can probably do is something like what he's saying, big day of work. And by the way, there's some concepts there. Sorry to get into this fitness stuff, but I think this was a great little interview, and I love where Nick's going. 28-year-old, kind of changing his mind, saying, "Screw this toxic stuff. I'm going to do something more positive." When I talked to Patrick McFarlane, Liberty Weekly. He's doing some similar thing with his own family life, taking out some of the stress from his work, putting a lot into his podcasting, and actually funneling it into the real world concepts that we're having right now with mandates and vaccine stuff. But what I can say about this is, you have a heavy work day, you probably need to eat more so you can actually effectuate your workout better. You're doing it, and then you're burning more calories those days. And that's kind of the way you can do it. Great advice there, Travis. And once again, it was a really good interview I had with him. Okay, our next one. You're welcome, Jesse Lee Peterson, on with Michael Malice. As I said, Michael Malice recently been all over at the Blaze, but before that, he was on Jesse Lee Peterson's show himself not too long ago. And I'm going to have to actually run this through here while I'm talking. He was on Jesse Lee Peterson's show not too long ago, and then Jesse came on his. I don't know if you guys had actually watched this. When he was on this show with Jesse. Do this here. Sorry, had to. She's running all these ads, so it just kind of gets caught up in here. And here is part of the interview. Is Malice? Does he have anger? And is he a woman?
Any man that has anger. Oh, gotta ask you, Michael, do you have anger? Before I say this.
No, sir. Not toward you, that's for sure.
No, do you have anger, period?
Some, yeah, when I hear about things like people hurting children or things like that, that really gets me angry.
It makes you angry. Well, any male that has anger is a woman.
Uh-oh. Well, I have been peeing sitting down, so now I can understand why that's been happening. Thank you, Dr. Peterson. Amazing.
Because what happened is, in all children that are born of their mothers, they're in a fallen state because we were born into families that are not perfect. The mother and father are not perfect, right? And so what happens is your mother turns you away from your father because she has this spirit of jealousy about the father. She can't help it. And so any of the children that become one with the father, she will attack you and make you seem like the bad child and make the other children seem like the good child, the good children. So what happened was, when you resent your mother, you take on her identity. You start to have an illogical mindset. You become emotional. You have fear and doubt and worry and insecurity. The woman become your God. And every woman you get involved with is mama. And that's why men end up becoming the boy, and the wife or the girlfriend become the mama. And so I realized that, and I went and forgave my mother. I said to her, long story short, you know what? I have resented you all my life because you tried to turn me away from my father. And I thought you were a mean person for that. And I resented you for that. And you were impatient, you imposed your will. But I realized now you can't help it. You could not help that.
Yeah, solid interview there. And you know, we're just going to look here at the kind of the last. I know this might be. Is this going to ruin Michael Malice? And he'll never watch this show, but he doesn't watch podcasts anyways, or especially mine. And not many of you actually are out there watching it either. Once again, damn it with these. So I'm going to play this here, and then we're going to go through the ad. But Malice, I'm going to spoil a little bit at the end. I've you know, if ever I were able to ask Michael Malice or a question and actually interview him, one of my questions would be something along the lines of, hey, who has had the best answer to the question, what has been your favorite part of this interview? Okay. And I wonder if Jesse Lee Peterson would fit the top for this one. Let's check this out. Jesse Lee Peterson gets asked by Michael Malice, what's your favorite part of this?
I would make California great again.
Jesse, we're running out of time. What has been your favorite part of this interview?
Your attitude. You have an amazing attitude. And I love the way you communicate, the questions you ask. It's not personal.
Yeah.
And especially being a Jew. You're a Jew, right?
Can you I didn't even know what that means. But that's solid. That's some solid work there. Yeah. Oh, some noise out there. My wife's coming home, maybe. Whether she's been okay. People. We had a debate here. Scott Horton debates Bill Kristol. Probably one of the biggest anticipated debates. It's been, scheduled for 2 years. Scott Horton, foremost authority regarding foreign policy, libertarian aside, while Bill Kristol, the son of William Kristol, his dad and others such as William F. Buckley Jr. are really, part and parcel for the conservative movement in the last half century. I remember Bill Kristol from the first days of Fox News up to the late 1990s, and then also reading his wannabe National Review style magazine, The Weekly Standard. It is the most important to realize that Bill Kristol, his dad, and his magazine have been instrumental in dictating the foreign policy, shaping that since the 1980s. So in this interview or this debate here, when Scott Horton really takes him on personally, you go, about his foreign policy, his pro-war, and his decisions in the you can understand why. So hitting Bill directly, I don't think it was out of bounds at all, because it was Bill who was instrumental in towing the American public to the sidelines, cheering on the destruction made by the U.S. military since Operation Desert Freedom or Desert Storm back in the early 90s, 93, I think it was. So anyway, we're going to get to this. And I, once again, this hasn't been released, but Liberty Weekly podcast with Patrick McFarland. I talked about how, and this isn't a down thing necessarily for Scott Horton, but we see Scott Horton as he is, the greatest, libertarian foreign policy mind kind of that is out there. But I went to University of Colorado for grad school. Our big nemesis at the time was University of Nebraska for football. They just didn't know it. They didn't care about us as much as we cared about them because they were the big dog and we were, nipping at their feet. It's kind of like what it is here in a sense. And that's not to downplay Scott at all. It's just to say that you've got an issue with Bill Kristol is just kind of up here and he gets all this notoriety, millions of followers on Twitter, whereas Scott Horton just isn't as well known. So Bill Kristol probably comes in and he's just not as, jacked up. He's not ready for this. I don't think he really prepared himself for it. So let's take a look here. First situation we're going to find on this intervention. The crux of it was the debate was foreign intervention. Okay. First clip we are having here is kind of summarizing Bill Kristol's argument in toto. And so you take a listen and see if you hear any facts or just a lot of platitudes.
I'll talk about that a bit too. But I think the fundamental point, the willingness.
Okay, so once again, we have one of these shows here that is doing. Let's try it one more time.
A key to a freer, more prosperous world, and a willingness to seek regime change, mostly peacefully, obviously, is key to a more democratic world, countries with democracy, self-government, and political and civil liberties. How to do that gets complicated, and I'll talk about that a bit too. But I think the fundamental point, the willingness to stand with allies, the willingness to intervene if necessary, usually that willingness provides a deterrence. Occasionally it has to happen. A willingness to articulate that people deserve to live in freedom and that we should do our best to help them. And occasionally, if they're being oppressed sufficiently or if they're being invaded by others, we'll even act to help them, I think is key. And I think such a policy benefits America directly, but it also benefits the world, which in turn benefits America. So that's my core argument. It's a pretty straightforward argument. I honestly think it's pretty, I think it's correct, obviously. I mean, the key judgment people have to make is, what do you think of the post-1945 world order? If you think, as I do, that on the whole, it has been a good thing, that if you compare it with the preceding 45 years, it's undoubtedly produced a world more peaceful, more prosperous, more free, greater social liberties for all of the terrible problems. But compared to the preceding half century, I think you have to say this has been a good half century, a good 70 years or so by comparison. All these things are by comparison. And the key to the success, economic successes, successes in life expectancy, successes in political freedoms, success in just keeping the peace, success in not having another use of nuclear weapons in anger since 1945. Those successes really depended on this American-led world order, which in turn depended on a core defense structure, foreign policy structure, national security structure, of which the U.S. was the keystone.
Okay, what that kind of reminds me of, though, is I'm trying to remember who did the book. Was it Jonathan Haidt or one of those guys that basically came out and they did a whole analysis of like the good things that have happened. You know, you ask people, oh, you know, is the world better or worse? Well, in your own life, maybe it's better or worse. I don't know, but you have kind of your preconceived notions of what it is. And then this guy comes out with the book talking about all the wonderful things that have happened and how, you know, everything's in the statistical metrics. They're actually much, much better than what you think it is. And, you know, he's just saying kind of like that, but it doesn't mean that's what they actually are. And he doesn't back them up with anything. It's just, oh, it feels better. We haven't X, Y, and Z, but we've been at war for 20 years. So it's a little bit interesting on that. Okay. How about, I like this one here with Bill Kritsol, where you're just going to, how about we just push democracy harder? Let's just push it harder, because if we push it harder, then it'll work better, right? Maybe? Yeah? No? I don't know. Take it away. You know, damn it. There's going to have ads in this one too. So I'm going to have to try to skip through this. And I do have a problem with the concept of, let's get this off the screen here. So, and I'll just kind of front load it here, which is the big concept, and he's going to talk about it here, is spreading democracy throughout the world. Okay. Which is great. And I was really all for that back in the early 2000 after 9/11. I'm like, yeah, let's just spread democracy. That's what we have going. That's the best idea. But we can't spread democracy to our own country right now. And when I say democracy, it's really liberty, right? We can't even spread liberty to the US. It's shit right now. But we're going to spread it to these other countries. You know what? They have different ideas. They have different customs. They have different cultures. And we're kind of doing the whole thing of, hey, you want liberty? Well, you better effing take it, or else I'm going to, well, you know what? I'm going to attack you, probably. Bill Kritsol, spreading democracy and liberty, whether you like it or not.
But I will. No, that's okay. I think I'll just let the 2 minutes go. The Middle East is a very difficult part of the world, and we've obviously made many mistakes there. I think one of the mistakes we made was not pushing democracy hard enough when we had real leverage. I'm not a defender of the Saudi regime. I was kind of mocked in 2002 when I said that I thought a consistent policy for freedom in that part of the world would anticipate and even work towards the end of the dominance of the House of Saud in Saudi Arabia. And I continue to think, and I'm certainly critical of both the Trump and Biden administration for being too soft on MBS, for example, for arranging for the killing of an American resident, Jamal Khashoggi. So I've been, same with Sisi, same with Pakistan. I would be, if anything, I think in the Middle East, which is so difficult though, and which we look at and then get understandably shrink from the consequences of really a kind of even liberal imperial world. And so we tend to pull back, and we tend to, for understandable reasons, prioritize short-term security, peace, anti-terror, which is awfully important. You know, it's not nothing that we haven't had another 9/11 in 20 years. And we probably don't do enough to promote liberty and democracy.
All right. No, just know it is, because I'm going to come back and play this a little bit later on, his stance on liberty, democracy, and war. Okay. This is where I mean, this is where Scott kind of pushes back, giving us, damn it, once again, it's going to want to play an ad, giving us once again the whole concept, taking on the personal parts of Bill Kristol, right? The Weekly Standard, their lies, and kind of their dissemination. But, you know, they were a big deal. They were, I mean, every, you know, I think person in the White House at the time was receiving the Weekly Standard as part of their kind of weekly curriculum. So here we go. Scott Horton on the Weekly Standard and taking him on kind of a personal place.
Sounded great to the people of the world. Remember on September 12th, they held a 1 million-man candlelight vigil in downtown Tehran on behalf of the people of the United States. We had the entire world ready to listen to America, ready to join up in our cause. But it wasn't the right cause. It was, hey, you know what we could do? We could get a bonus war. If we could just lie to these people, and we'll just publish in the Weekly Standard over and over and over again that Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein are friends. Saddam's going to give weapons of mass destruction to Osama bin Laden to kill you and your mama and your hometown if we don't preempt them and stop them from attacking us first. Let's do that. We could get away with that. People are so upset about the 3,000 dead New Yorkers. We could exploit that grief and fear. We could overthrow whoever we want now. On to Baghdad against who? The guy in the French beret and the clean-shaven chin and the olive green military uniform, who they could have just sent Colin Powell. The Secretary of State at the time was a 4-star general, former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I think he was tough enough to handle Saddam. And if not him, how about mean old Donald Rumsfeld? They were old friends from when he helped arm Iraq in the 1980s under Ronald Reagan. They couldn't have just gone over there and read the riot act to Saddam and put him in line. No, remember Dick Cheney said, we can't talk to evil because that will, justify it. And that will, Saddam Hussein, like he wasn't already the dictator of Iraq since 1979. That will give him legitimacy and credibility if we talk to him. We have only one choice: to attack Iraq before they attack us first. Yeah.
All right. And sorry if there's any echo there. I got to mute myself when I play these things. And sometimes I forget. But not only that, if you're concerned about the ability of these gentlemen to speak so quickly, just know that I'm playing this at 1.25 speed. Not everyone talks like they are Ben Shapiro. So don't listen to Ben Shapiro at 1.5, by the way. It might rack your brain a little bit. I've played him in the car. My son's like, why are you playing this on fast? I'm like, no, I'm actually playing slow. Okay, so let's go to the next one. This is where, I talked once again, I can't wait till this interview comes out, but I talked to Patrick McFarlane and said, how do you deal with when you are working with, you're trying to have conversations with people about foreign policy, as an example, and not to, and I brought this one up specifically about basically trying not to get demonized for, you're criticizing the Taliban, or, the way that we're attacking, doing things, or Tiananmen Square was kind of the example I used, without sounding like you are a sympathizer of that other regime. And here again, this is exactly what Bill Kristol does. His only way to really go is to pinpoint and say, hey, Scott, what do you love the Taliban? Let's see how Scott handles that.
Video, Jimmy. Because nobody said they hate us for our freedom. They hate us because their radical Islamic beliefs make them hate those who are good and innocent and beautiful and love their mama. No one had told that lie yet. So it was just plain and simple.
You think the Taliban are doing what they're doing right now in Afghanistan because they hate? What do they hate? We got out of Afghanistan.
Well, the Taliban aren't attacking us. I don't know what you're talking about. They were attacking us until we left, and then they stopped.
No, I'm saying, do you think that there's going to be liberty and freedom, that young girls in Afghanistan will have opportunities and the like?
No. Okay, I don't know what the point of that was.
Well, the point of that is that liberty matters around the world. That bin Laden was not provoked by, I don't believe, our having some bases in Saudi Arabia that we'd had for an awful long time, or by our supporting Israel, which had been there for an awful long time.
You don't believe that because you don't know anything about it, I guess. Why don't you read the Declaration of War from 1996 and 1998? Or, better yet, read Perfect Soldiers by Terry McDermott. It's the biography of the Hamburg cell, 9/11 hijackers. Don't interrupt yet. Hang on a second. Mohammed Atta, the lead hijacker on September 11th, he joined Al-Qaeda, decided to join Al-Qaeda and attack the United States when Israel invaded Lebanon in 1996 in Operation Grapes of Wrath. And a couple of months later, Osama bin Laden put out his declaration of war, declaring war against the United States and ranting on and on about the Qana massacre of 106 dead civilians killed by the Israelis hiding in a UN shelter. And that was when Mohammed Atta and his friend Ramzi bin al-Shibh decided they wanted to join Al-Qaeda. They then went and traveled to Afghanistan, met bin Laden, joined the group, and were recruited to carry out the planes operation against the United States of America.
Well, we'll just stop it there on that one, because not much to do other than to just point out the way he tries to pinpoint. Oh, and by the way, man, Scott, good for Scott for staying on point, which is the actual specific issue was they hate us for our freedom, and that's why they attacked us. No, they hated us for actually attacking them and doing things to them. That's why they attacked us here in the U.S. That was the issue. Why did they attack us here in the U.S.? So Scott's describing that, and then Bill Kristol's like, "Hey, well, what about you think you're going to have freedom over there? The Taliban's going to give them that?" Well, no, that's not what we're saying. We're saying because they're not, and then that's Scott's point. They're not attacking us over here, right? No, we don't give a shit. But that's what this was all about. I was proving that anyway. It's you heard it. You make the judgment there of what you thought it was. Okay, last one we'll do here with the debate. Actually, two other ones, but the last one's really short. The very last one's going to be short. This is the Australian to Holocaust pipeline. Once again, I loved what Scott does here. And damn it, it's going to play another ad. So we will, let's go over here and make sure. So Scott, look, someone brings up Australia, okay? And they say that in Australia, there's like obviously totalitarian would, and kind of bring that point up. So Scott makes some joke about Australia. And then what he basically says is he mentions about Holocaust that the U.S. has had around the world, basically in the last half century, all the millions of people that we that have been as associated with just wars. Okay, Bill Kristol then takes exception to that because you don't actually argue the point. You then take shots at the person to make sure that any argument he may have can be. And look, these things were effective for me. It used to be because talk about Vietnam and different wars, and the people on the other side are really pro-communist. And I talked about this on multiple interviews. The Little Red Book of Mao as an example. And so you can not take their points seriously because they're really more about effectuating change to or supporting the communists that we were fighting at the time rather than being anti-war. So dangerous situation, and you got to be worried about that. But here's Bill Kristol trying to play the same game here.
I may have foolish COVID protocols now, and people can chortle that out. That's like totalitarianism. That's ludicrous, honestly. And a discourse that can talk about a U.S. Holocaust and about authoritarian, I'm not sure what term was used, so I don't want to characterize it, but talk about Australia even in a semi-joking way, in the same way one talks about genuine dictatorships that kill dissidents and really oppress minorities in horrible ways. People who can talk cavalierly about that, I don't know what to say.
Next question.
I don't get to answer.
Jimmy, what?
Yeah, on trivializing the Holocaust, our government, led by the neoconservative hawks, call every opponent of the American government Hitler. Noriega's Hitler, David Koresh is Hitler, Saddam Hussein is Hitler, the Ayatollah Khomeini and Khamenei are Hitler. In fact, just 6 weeks ago, H.R. McMaster said that for Trump to have negotiated with the Taliban, that's just like Neville Chamberlain negotiating with Hitler. Well, that to me sounds like it's trivializing the Holocaust. Either Hitler was a unique danger or he wasn't. And I would say that he was. And I would say that when they bring up Adolf Hitler, the exception that proves the rule, in every single case where America has to intervene, Muammar Gaddafi, the guy from the Naked Gun too? Yeah, no, we got to get him too. He's Hitler too. They're all Hitler. Speaking of trivializing the Holocaust.
Comment, Bill.
No need to comment, Bill. That's what we have. Last thing I'm going to have here is I took this. I mean, this, as Scott even I think might have said, this might have actually proved that that Scott actually won the debate himself, because here's what Bill Kristol says, which is it was daunting, and I'm like, I posted this on here. We'll actually say what I said. I said, here's the clip. Also note he just mentioned, I'm anti-war. That's what he had said. And I just said, yeah, two peaceniks having a conversation. I don't know about a debate. Let's go to play this little minor clip here.
Yeah, I think the Balkans intervention, I would say. And obviously, I mean, look, I am anti-war. I hate the idea that we would send, and most Americans do, the idea that Americans are yearning
there is nothing about this debate that was anti-war for his point of view. So that was somewhat humorous. And by the way, that clip came, and as I'd had in my tweet here, that clip was taken. He said, "I'm anti-war," right after he just said, "Where would it be a good place you would intervene?" Well, I would intervene and not have war in the Balkans, but I'm anti-war. Okay, whatever, dude. Scott Horton eviscerated him. Lastly, look, this just kind of came on the pipeline down my purview, as everyone has. Joe Rogan ends up having Dr. Sanjay Gupta on his show trying to sell a book. And so I thought we would take a clip here of Gupta coming out and Joe kind of, just ripping him a new one here, and then maybe contrasting it with Gupta's on the show. Just listen for his demeanor and how he kind of is not, he's not antagonistic with Joe at all. He's like, yeah, they shouldn't have said, oh yeah. It was very sarcastic, very salty, or whatever the term is he has about the tweet here. And so he has that. And then we'll play a clip of Gupta on with Don Lemon a little bit later on in the week, or just a few days later, the next day, actually, yesterday, and the contrast to how smarmy he is, and we'll play this.
Not a flattering thing. It's a lie. It's a lie on a news network, and it's a lie that's that's a lie that they're conscious of. It's not a mistake.
Yeah.
They're unfavorably framing it as veterinary medicine.
Well, the FDA put this thing out. You saw that. Did you see the thing that the FDA put out?
What did the FDA put out?
It was a tweet, and it was snarky. I admit it. They said, "You are not a horse. You are not a cow. Stop taking this stuff," or something like that.
Why would you say that when you're talking about a drug that's been given out to billions and billions of people, a drug that was responsible for one of the inventors of it making
Nobel Prize
in 2015?
15, yeah.
Yeah, a drug that has been shown to stop viral replication in vitro. You know that, right? Why would they lie and say that's horse dewormer? I can afford people medicine, motherfucker. This is ridiculous. It's just a lie.
I don't think anyone is.
But don't you think that a lie like that is dangerous on a news network when you know that they know they're lying? You know that they know that I took medicine. Like, here it is. This is ivermectin.
You got
this
it with
right
you.
here. Somebody gave it to me.
All right, hang on. The thing is, we're like going so fast. Like, I feel like I'm missing.
Do you think that's a problem, that your news network lies?
Well, I don't.
Dude,
what did they say?
They lied.
What did they
said
say?
I was taking horse dewormer. First of all, it was prescribed to me by a doctor.
Yeah.
Along
they
with
shouldn't have said
a
it was
bunch of other medications.
If you got a human pill, because there were people that were taking the veterinary medication, and you're not, obviously, you got it from a doctor, so that it shouldn't be called that. Ivermectin can be a very effective medication for parasitic disease, and as you say, it's probably, I think what, 250 million people have taken it around the world.
More,
I get that.
Way more.
So
way more. Billions of people have taken it.
Can I just come back to the one I want to talk about?
No.
Two things on the ledger.
You have, before we get to that, does it bother you that the news network you work for out and out lied, just outright lied about me taking horse dewormer?
They shouldn't have said that.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
You didn't ask? You didn't think that was you're the medical guy over there.
I didn't ask. I should have asked before.
But they
coming
did
on
it with
podcast.
such glee.
No,
yes,
Joe.
they did. I watched.
No, Joe. So what I'm going to actually do here is this is my Twitter feed, and I think I have actually. By the way, follow me, Tyler Yankee, Tyler Janke, Janke. By the way, that's I didn't get time for that. Here is, where's the mashup that I had put on? Here we go. So this will be great. Remember, he just said with glee, and Gupta was just like, ugh, you're so wrong. Now just check this out. Now this is TYT or the Young Turks or whatever the F it is, but they play a bunch of clips here of CNN as well. Let's go.
It blows my mind that Joe Rogan just yesterday admitted to taking ivermectin.
Ivermectin is something more often used to deworm horses.
CNN is saying I'm taking horse dewormer.
Rogan telling his 13 million Instagram followers that he was treated with several drugs, and he included ivermectin on the list, a drug used for livestock.
Rogan said the word ivermectin. Yes, that's the deworming medicine made to kill parasites in farm animals.
Why would they lie and say that's horse dewormer?
So things are clearly bad.
but they're being made even worse by people who have refused to take the vaccine and instead are swallowing horse paste.
Wait a second. He said that he got better because he ate cattle dewormer.
They must know that that's a lie.
You have individuals like Joe Rogan, for example, who don't want to take an experimental vaccine but will take horse dewormer.
Well. If it isn't old horseworm Rogan.
Ivermectin is often used to deworm livestock.
Ivermectin apparently given to deworm animals.
It's a lie on a news network, and it's a lie that's a lie that they're conscious of. It's not a mistake.
Yeah.
They're unfavorably framing it as veterinary medicine.
Joe Rogan, he came down with COVID. He says he's been taking the livestock dewormer ivermectin.
They lied
What did
and
they
said
say?
I was taking horse dewormer.
Ivermectin is a drug that is commonly used as a horse dewormer.
They keep saying I'm taking.
All right, I got to just stop that. It's just too much. Too much. All right, but last thing we're going to play here is Gupta then goes on his own network, CNN, goes on with the venerable Don Lemon and listen to, just remember exactly what Gupta had been saying and his demeanor there with Joe Rogan. And I tweeted out, I was like, what a effing nerd. He's okay with the cool guy and he's like, hey, yeah, my book and look at me, I'm cool. And here, have some whiskey. And then he goes back with his other buddies in his mom's basement. And this is the kind of crap that he ends up talking about with them.
It's called river blindness, and it's been very effective for that.
But he did say something about ivermectin that I think wasn't actually correct about CNN and lying, okay? Ivermectin is a drug that is commonly used as a horse dewormer. So it is not a lie to say that the drug is used as a horse dewormer. I think that's important, and it is not approved for COVID. Correct?
That's right. That's correct. It is not approved for COVID, and you're right. I mean, the FDA even put out a statement saying, basically reminding people, it was a strange sort of message from the FDA, but they said, you're not a horse, you're not a cow, stop taking this stuff, is essentially what they said, referring to ivermectin. Now, I think what Joe's point
That
is,
it has been approved for humans, but not necessarily for COVID, right? Yeah.
That's correct. It's been used for a parasitic disease, for something it's called river blindness, and it's been very effective for that. But just because it works for one thing doesn't mean it works for something else. Right. And there's still a few ongoing clinical trials around ivermectin, but for the most part, if you look at the data, there's no evidence that it really works here.
And that was never the issue. The issue was never, was it working here? It was that he was taking a horse dewormer. That's not what he took. He didn't take a horse dewormer. It happens. I made this analogy and my wife doesn't like it, but she says it's not correct, but I believe it is, which is my wife fed me corn tonight. Corn is also used. Corn is a big ingredient in horse food. Okay. Horse feed. My wife is a monster. She's feeding me horse feed. No, it's just how it's factual, but not truthful, right? I think that's the Michael Malice situation. Yeah. Okay. And that's pretty much what we have. I think these guys are scumballs, and it's whatever it is. So that's what we have it. Look, for me, I wish tonight that I was at Tom Woods' thing. These guys look like they're having a lot of fun. I'm jealous. But it's what it is. That's all we have. Okay. That's our show. Look, I'm still, as I said, I've been working my way through the Not a Podcast catalog. These guys would stop putting out shows and episodes. I'd actually be able to get this done. But this one was a thing. So look, I'm sure I missed a bunch of podcasts out there this week. These to me were just some of the good ones. There's a lot of great ones out there. I know that the world is just overpopulated with podcasts, but I love it. I have a good time. When I rebuilt my front fence and gate on Sunday, and I spent a bunch of time just headphones in and working out there. Neighbor guy comes over because he has to redo his. He wanted to ask me a question. I didn't hear him until the dog barked at him and chased him away. So it was all good and dandy. Didn't have to worry about it. Right. But I think we should maybe go out with this one last time. We'll get a little clip here.
Okay, Okay, I'm leaving now. Bye, guys.
But she's back now.
And now.
Yeah,
I
that's all
just
I
started
got.
live streaming. Cut me some slack. I'm pretty high tech for a boomer. But
For
anyways,
a boomer.